Hello, everyone.
Hello. Just hopefully Ben will come in shortly. Hi, Kate. Has anyone heard from Ben?
Yes, he's been texting this afternoon, so he knows.
Yeah.
He knows where we're meeting on Zoom. This is usual.
He was in town. He was zooming around the school at about sort of 4:30. I think he was trying to bowl his last over. He's just asked for his Zoom link.
Would you like me to forward it through?
Please.
Yeah.
I can, or you can. Yep, that'd be great.
Do it now.
Is Peter Watson joining us?
Yes, he's online.
Right, sorry guys, it took me a while to get into that.
It's all right. We're going to fine you 50 cents a minute.
Well, I didn't have the link sent to me in an email. I couldn't find it anywhere. I had it was going to be sent, but it hadn't been sent. So I had links to other meetings, but not that one. This one's right. When you want to do this, your batteries go flat. Okay, we're waiting on anyone else or just me?
I think we're ready to kick off when you're ready.
Okay, so we'll open the Katikati Community Board meeting number K22-2 held by Zoom on Wednesday, the 30th of March 2022 at 7 p.m. Present, we have myself, member Neil Harray, John Clements, Kate Sutherland, Councillor Denya and Councillor Sol, as well as council members Ashley Hall along the pictures. It's Rachel Davey, Penella, and I think Janisha's there as well, is she? Yeah. So,
Yep, Peter Watson. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, and Peter Watson down the bottom, and Scott Parker. We've got full
Yep.
house. Okay. No apologies as far as I can see. So if there's no apologies, I'll declare that the Katikati Community Board meeting is open and welcome everyone present, including the public. So just remember, everyone, this is live streamed. So basically the whole community can be watching the meeting tonight. As I said, there's no apologies at the time. So is there any considerations? So we don't need to move past that. Is there any consideration of late items? No late items received, Penel? No. Other members? Shakes of the head would be good.
No,
No?
I'm not sure if you're going to just talk about Paula, Jackie.
I'll go.
In fact,
I'll go.
They're on the public forum. Yep.
Yep, I realise that. Yep, so we'll go into that. Declarations of interest. Any declarations of conflicts of interest to be declared tonight? Okay, I have one. If there's an item that we'll be talking about in regards to a grant application to the C. Miller Fund in regards to trees and beautification of Moore Park. I'm part of the clubs that have applied for that, so I will have to abstain from any voting or anything like that. I can be asked for information, but most of it's in the application. So if that can be recorded, Penella, that's okay.
Yeah, done.
Okay, so from there, we will move into, there's no publicly excluded items in tonight's meeting, so we can move straight into public forum. And as far as I'm aware, we have 3 people to talk, so we'll start with probably the 2 quickest ones first. So Paula Gaelic, if you'd like to go first from the museum.
Merv, mute the TV.
You've just muted yourself again, Paula, so the TV's been muted. Oh, you need to unmute yourself, Paula. Yeah.
Hey, sorry about that. Just before I start, Jackie is having computer issues, so hopefully she'll be able to join because I know she was going to be speaking. This evening, I am not speaking about the museum. I'm speaking for myself as a ratepayer. And it's just about the pathway to go from Yeoman Bridge around to Somerset or Park Road Reserve. And I wish to speak about it because I'm a walker and a cyclist. And the Katikati pathway, or what's proposed for around there was some signs up. I use it 20 to 25 days of the month. And there were signs up there and I see they've been taken down. And so I just wanted to talk in support of the concrete proposed pathway. As I say, I use it a lot. Observation, the concrete pathways have a much higher use, like the Haiku or the Harbour Park Somerset one, because they are accessible for everyone, regardless of age, physical ability, and they're user-friendly for everybody. And including the sight impaired, if it is concrete. At present, when I use that pathway, I'm already getting wet shoes. And when I'm on my bike, the grass gets caught up in my gears. So every week I have to sort that out. And I really support it as well, because the mental and physical health benefits, there's nothing better than using our pathways and cycle tracks. Universal design means or represents accessibility for everyone. Don't make people feel othered because they can't use a certain part of our public reserves or esplanades. And so I'm really in full support of it. It was a big part of our proposed community plan that there was a big representation for from across our community. And I just feel that with cycle and walk tracks, Katikati is getting really left behind. You look at the rest of the country and they're investing in cycle walkway tracks for years. The benefits are huge, we all know that, and I just feel like we're stalling on ours, and I think it's a shame. Esplanades and reserve land is for everyone and for all of us to enjoy. So that's what I'd like to submit regarding that. And I'm querying why the signs have been taken down. They lasted 2 mornings this week.
Okay, Paula. Thank you for that. I think there's a few more conversations on this topic, so we'll go through the public forum and then we'll probably address it with some questions from members. So if everyone's happy to wait with that, is Jackie? Oh, you are. I can see you now. Yep.
Is there? Thanks.
So thanks, Paula. Jackie, if you want to jump in and take your turn now.
Yep, sorry about that. I have had a few issues, but I'm back here. And I think you probably are aware of my stance on the proposed pathway, but I just wanted to add that I've read a lot of comments on the Facebook page, and I can appreciate that people are feeling a bit threatened by the proposed path coming, and I have refrained from commenting on Facebook because I think it's probably a bit counterproductive. But this process has been through public consultation, it's been approved through the Reserves Management Plan, and it's been signed off by the councillors. So in my opinion, it's had a good airing. I've spoken to a lot of people who support the concrete path and the upgrade of the surface, and I've got family and friends who need to use really good solid pathways, and I think that this will just open it up for everybody to be able to use. And I get really brassed off with the community who don't want any money spent because, as Paula mentioned, it kind of makes it look like we're going backwards, and we don't want to be going backwards. We've spent a lot of time and effort to try and get going forward. So I'm looking forward to walking along the concrete path and enjoying it. Sorry, thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. That's no problem. So those two, and the last person I think, Penella, we've got to speak is Tessa Blacker. Is that correct? From Public Forum. There's no one else.
Tessa and Rodney had both registered. Yeah.
Okay, Tessa, we'll save you for last. So Rodney will go next, and then we'll go with Tessa. Okay, so Rodney, if you go next, and then we'll go with Tessa because Tessa's presentation is a bit bigger, I think. So, yeah.
Sure. Okay, well, I'm also a regular user of the walkway, not a direct neighbour. And I guess my key concern that I would like to see proper consultation on this proposal before decisions are made. It may have been through internal council processes, but the public, as has been seen in the last few days, has been largely unaware of it. And now the council has put this forward as a fait accompli with only the finishing touches, such as the colour of the concrete, to be decided. It has done nothing really to explain this project for the public. The council needs to share the cost of the project and also the scope of it. We're told this pathway will allow disabled access, but New Zealand has standards for disabled access, and simply laying concrete over the existing grass walkway would not meet those standards. The part that's concreted already is way too steep for wheelchairs. There are more steep sections, most notably when you walk through Leveley Lane, the reserve there, and turn right, you go straight up a hill. And then when you go along the other end of Francis Drive, walk down, quite a steep patch. Quite simply, if we're really serious about disabled access, there would need to be quite major earthworks done. And I don't think that has been talked about with the public. It would change the nature of the esplanade quite significantly. So either what's proposed with the small amount of consultation on the colour of the concrete does not meet the council requirements, or there's going to be some major spending going on that we don't know about. The council clearly does not have community support for major earthworks and a major change along that esplanade. There are people that support it, and I'm happy that on Facebook most people have been really civil about their views, and that's been great. And not everybody agrees with me, that's fine. But there may well be other ways to achieve access, particularly the sections that are not so steep. I would start by repairing the damage. The bridge is very welcome, but there is a lot of vehicular damage along that patch that does make it very difficult to walk through. But I'm not quite sure. I'm not an expert. We have experts on the call that would be able to walk us through how to tidy up that section. It may be that access points to viewing places along there could be built. I mean, Leveley Lane Reserve is a bit of a mush pit in the winter. So yeah, there's things that could be done, but we need to take the community with us because there's a number of people have been surprised by this. And I'm sorry, the public don't read reserve plans. They don't read agendas. Saying it's been through a reserve plan or been through an agenda does not meet the need of talking to the public. So basically, we need to know what's really going on. I don't believe that running a ribbon of concrete over the existing pathway would be a safe access way for wheelchairs, for example. It's just not true. So what is planned? What are the scope of works plans? What is the budget? And then let's take that to the public and see what people think. And that's my submission.
Okay, thank you, Rodney. And again, we'll leave questions till after Tessa's presentation as well. So we've heard from all four people. So Tessa, if you'd like to have your turn. We do sort of limit it to 3 to 5 minutes, but please talk, as long as it's relevant, we'll keep you going. So please go ahead, Tessa. Thank you.
Thanks. I will keep it as brief as I can. It's just there's quite a few different points. So I just want to say thank you for the chance to speak to you all on the council's plan to what we think is pave paradise. This afternoon, the elected members should have received by email a PDF document of some photos in support of this talk. Hopefully you all did.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm Tessa Blackett, and I'm speaking on behalf of my partner, Keith Gregor, neighbours Trish and Paul Green, Jill and Paul Ashurst from our wider neighbourhood, and Paul is the Paul that's on this call. And I'm also representing the sentiments of many other friends, neighbours, family members that we have spoken to about this. We all live close to the Uretara River and Estuary Walkway between the new bridge and Park Road Reserve. Council has just announced to the public they are about to build a 2.5 metre wide concrete pavement along this entire 1.2 kilometre stretch of currently grassy trail. We think this trail is very special, a precious local taonga. The green space of the walkway alongside the beautiful river and estuary, its wildlife and wider landscape were a major part of our decisions to move here, and we know many in the local community who also love it as it is. It provides access to a range of spots for escaping urban life and connecting to nature, like quietly viewing bird life, watching the changing light and tides, and taking in the landscape, including large trees, coastal plants, water, and distant hills. We all walk and bike this trail regularly, and there is also an elderly family member who uses the trail on a mobility scooter. Very occasionally on our walks, Keith and I add in the concrete path from beside Somerset along to Cresta or Preston Drive. It would be very easy for a mobility scooter, but it doesn't have the same feel as grass for walkers. We much prefer the part where we are walking on grass. The concrete path feels much less inviting, harder, colder, more urban, less natural, and much less connected to our surroundings. A neighbour who has bad hips says even ground is better for her, but she doesn't like walking this section of concrete path for the same reason as us. It feels cold, sterile, and urban. We are horrified at the council plan for a long and wide concrete pathway all the way from the new bridge to the end of Park Road. We don't want a large, artificial concrete pavement through this beautiful, natural environment. And so many people we know feel the same, including many elderly people. Concrete paths are for urban environments. This is a walkway valued for being off-road, a wilderness experience. With developments encroaching from all sides, it is more important than ever to keep Katikati's green spaces green and natural wherever we can. We are very concerned the council is about to make a huge mistake and will ruin this incredible and much loved natural area by laying a long and expensive concrete pavement through it. The track runs alongside river and estuarine areas used by a variety of birds, including declining and critically endangered species: royal spoonbills, white-faced herons, pied stilts, Caspian terns, oyster catchers, banded rails, fern birds, bitterns, and kotuku, white herons. Some birds roost and nest in the trees and areas right beside the trail. Many of them, including spoonbills, feed at lower tides along the riverbank and estuary edges very close to the trail, and at higher tides a variety of bird species rest at the sandspit near Irwin Court. All the birds along the edges of this trail are easily disturbed by the presence of people and dogs and will move to other areas in response to activity and noise. A lot of work is being done by the community and organisations around the river, wetlands and estuary to reduce the number of predators and help the chances of wildlife living and breeding in this area. Council should be supporting these efforts by considering effects of trail changes on wildlife and their environment and prioritising their needs. Concrete is a poor environmental option for many reasons. The cement industry is one of the main producers of carbon dioxide, a potent greenhouse gas. Every tonne of cement produced results in a tonne of CO2. Concrete damages fertile topsoil, affects runoff, and causes erosion. This is a sensitive and precious river and coastal environment. Adding a large amount of concrete to this environment will have long-term negative effects on soil, organisms, and drainage. It will also make mowing more difficult. And 1.2 kilometres of concrete path will introduce 2.4 kilometres of edges to maintain. This means longer periods of noisy machinery operations and most likely the use of toxic sprays. In this sensitive coastal environment, we certainly don't need herbicides added regularly all along this large stretch. These chemicals will run off into the river and estuary and potentially affect a range of plants and animals, including birds and marine life, not to mention the many people exposed to the sprays by using the trail, including children and the elderly, as well as pets. The National Trails Network features many trails with natural feeling surfaces. Concrete is not required to make it part of the network. It is harder on walkers and runners' bodies than grass. It also generates more noise, increasing the likelihood of users disturbing wildlife, and makes it easier for people to speed along the path, potentially raising more safety issues. If paths are really necessary, then there are more natural path surface options like the hard-packed, very fine gravels on the adjoining section of trail on the town side of the new bridge, or the hard-packed pumice like on the popular Daisy, Hardwick and Moa walkways in Tauranga. Fixing the current grassy surface should be an option, as well as the use of other types of surfaces in short or longer sections, and the community needs to be informed of all the considerations and be involved in this decision-making process. Many people we've spoken to in the neighbourhood and wider community are feeling that the council has made the major decision to spend a lot of ratepayers' money concreting this entire local trail without understanding what the people want. There seems to have been no community consultation about options, only the current and pretty insulting final consultation survey giving a choice of 2 concrete colours. Yes, having accessible walkways and cycleways is important, and concrete is easy and fast for bikers, mobility scooters and wheelchair users. But no, for this trail, we think the council is on the wrong path. Concrete would make it very accessible to the detriment of the environment, wildlife, landscape values, and the enjoyment of many other trail users. It is already well used. We see walkers, bikers, people on mobility scooters, families with strollers and kids on bikes using the stretch of trail every day. Large sections of it are very flat, even and easy to negotiate. Small sections that reduce accessibility, were damaged during the bridge build or need winterproofing could be fixed in other ways. Though there are 2 steepest parts of the route that we think make it marginal for wheelchair access, with or without concrete. Concreting the entire length of this existing popular walkway is excessive, expensive and unnecessary. It would be an ugly blot on a large part of Katikati's beautiful environment that locals and visitors value for its natural character and landscape values, as well as being a waste of ratepayers' money. Where do we stop? Will the grassy reserve trail under the Pūtakawas at the end of Beach Road be concreted next? I challenge you all to come to the Uretara River and Estuary Walkway and test the surfaces yourself on foot to see the difference for walkers and runners. Walk some of the hard-packed fine gravel stop bank upriver from the new bridge, then walk from the new bridge along the long section of grassy trail, past the sand spit, up the recently built wide concrete ramp, and back onto the grass to Park Road Reserve. Then finish the walk along the concrete path beside Somerset. See how you feel about those surfaces.
Time's up.
Sorry, I am about to wind up. Yeah.
Sure.
Please ask council to reconsider this decision to pave our local paradise. We think council needs to more carefully weigh up all the options, make this information available to the public, and take the time to get genuine feedback from the community on the options. We want to find a solution for the special area that will still meet council's goals and the community's needs, but will be a much better option than concrete pavement for this landscape, the environment, the wildlife, and everyone that uses the trail. Once concrete is laid, there will be no going back.
Thanks, Tessa. Any members or councillors would like to ask a question of any of the 4 public forum speakers on the subject?
We've also got Paul, who's sort of part of ours, is also there to answer questions too.
So if you would like to ask a question,
Ben, can we just ask Peter, because in fact the minutes are quite clear as going back to 2018, and I can remember a consultation process taking place then, or maybe I'm misunderstanding, but can I just ask Peter, did council consult with the community back in 2018 before the reserve management plan was approved? Peter?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so through Mr. Chairman, there was a there was in 2009 there was a walking and cycleway plan, and that was updated recently as well, and that had showed this circuit or this pathway going through, and also in the 2017-18 period we had it included as an action and reserve management plan for the Katikati Waihi Beach ward, and that subsequently went through a public consultation process. And yes, I acknowledge that it may not always reach to people, but there was certainly, as a result of having that adopted in the management plan, and when we then took the next phase and initiated a feasibility into, was it possible to get a linkage through there? That's what kicked off the petition that came in beginning of 2019, which then subsequently resulted in that report that I prepared back to the operations committee, I think it was at the time.
Okay, Peter, can we just be clear though, that so the consultation took place, and I'm ignorant of the council processes, you know, I'm just a newbie. Therefore, the reserve management plan went before council and it was voted on by all councillors at the time for approval.
Yes, it identified a specific action, which was
so councillors did approve the plan at that stage.
On the 30th of December 2018.
And there's one which was approved in March 2019 as well.
That was the subsequent follow-up report that I did to Operations Committee in response
just
to
puts
the
in
petition.
perspective, the objections were, I mean, that's where I hear all the objections, but in fact, where I'm trying to position it is that consultation took place over the years, and it was approved by the councillors. And what I'm getting bashed with is that in fact councillors are now reneging on that decision made in 2019 and indicating that it's now still up for consultation. But that means relitigating the whole process, which really does kind of frustrate me, because that's, from what I can see from the minutes, the consultation process has happened. Is that correct?
I'm not sure who you're directing that question to.
Well, Peter, you'll know. I was hoping Gary would be on the phone because he would met, you know, Rachel may be able to help there as well. But it seems we seem to be relitigating something, a decision that has gone through the whole consultation process. That's what I'm trying to get at. Now, the surface might be a different issue, and we can debate that. But the pathway was the pathway was approved as part of the reserve management plan, the way I read the minutes, by all councillors. Rachel, Peter?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. And Member Clements, I think that Peter has quite accurately articulated the fact that engagement and consultation has occurred on the reserve management plan.
So therefore the issue is, and now I go back to Tessa and the other objectors, would you object to a gravel pathway if that was an option on the three options? So rather than concrete, you would not mind if there was a gravel pathway of some description?
Sorry, can I just step back one little step here? So I think, Peter, well, if I understand rightly, what I can see of the Reserve Management Plan 2018, the mention of this in there is one sentence that says develop a walkway slash cycleway between the Yeoman Walkway, Riverlea Drive Reserve, Leafley Lane Reserve, Francis Drive Reserve and Park Road Reserve next to the retirement village. It doesn't say, there's no, in what I can find, it only shows the land parcels that are the reserves and things, and it doesn't say anything more in there about what that would be. It's just develop a walkway slash cycleway. So if that's what the public is expected to make submissions about, and the council's meant to realise at that point that we don't want concrete, well, I don't think we were ever going to expect that developing a walkway slash cycleway along the stretch meant paving the whole thing with 2.5 metres wide of concrete pavement.
Thank you, Tess. So as I was on the community board for the last 5 6
Your fault.
and no, because actually members will know I objected all along to a concrete pathway or a pathway on the grassy area because I had my own views. That was my personal view on it. What concerns me is we did raise this, and I'm unsure of the time, but we did raise it because the residents were told that there was no firm decision made at the time, and there would be further consultation in regards to that. And obviously, the main objectors to it were the residents that back onto that pathway. Some who are still there and some who are not. I think that as John points out, the consultation has gone through and given all those people the chance to give their views on it. The recent letter we received obviously seems to show that it hasn't, to the point that the residents would be satisfied. But Peter, you may be able to correct me on this. I mean, I assume that this verse, usually council are very thorough. They would go talk to all the residential people initially before they even put it out, or they made sure that they had been contacted to get their views of that. Did that occur, Peter, in the last period before the reserves management plan was all voted on by council? Is that something that you could clarify for us, please?
Right, Mr. Chair. So, following receipt of the petition in early 2019, I prepared a report up to council, and in that report is attached a whole feasibility study showing the options, etc. Concrete, doing a metal surface option in there as well. Keeping in mind that when you're boxing in for metal surfaces and you've got the cost of the boxing, the excavation of boxing, you're only talking about the value of the infill, whether it's concrete or metal, then you're looking at the whole of life cycle costs for that asset that council would be providing. So that was back then it's been publicly available, that information. The people who did the petition, I think, attended the operations committee meeting and presented directly and made it quite clear. But since then too, we've had in the last year the 2021 to 31 long-term plan. We went out for public consultation where we went to the community about increasing our investment in cycleway walkways across the wider district, and that's in both the transportation and in the recreation area of our business. And there was clear support to carry on doing that, and that's what's then allowed some funding in place to move forward with this particular project. We've always said, from my report back in 2019, that when it came to the time, we would re-engage with the community. And I'm kind of pleased that there's some good debate going on here, and I think we have reached a lot of target audiences that we were after. Might be an article in the Katikati Advertiser tomorrow which explains a few more things here as well. So from my perspective, we are in the midst of a community engagement process. We've received a lot of feedback. This is part of that feedback I'm receiving tonight. And I think some of the individuals who are speaking tonight have done their own have your say or put the card system or done a different email. So there's plenty of opportunity to get that feedback. So I guess until we complete that engagement process and analyse all of the feedback, not only from adjoining owners, because we did target specifically joining owners with a postcard drop, but we're also interested in the wider community, the actual users of the reserve as well, appreciating that people live next door to places, but the activity of people walking to and fro up the reserve past those properties isn't going to change. It may increase a little bit, to be honest, if there's a better surface here to use. But the idea is we want to wait and complete the engagement process, undertake some analysis of all the feedback, and then we'll, at that point in time, I'll be reporting back up to our council, to elected members, and as a result of all that feedback, we'll do some analysis and we may need to reconsider aspects of the proposal at that point in time. and I'll take the direction from the elected members at that point in time. But
Thank
it's
you,
important we engage with. There are many varying opinions, and I can hear the passion from both sides tonight.
Well, thank you, Peter. That clarifies it, I think, for everyone. And I'm pretty sure off the top of my head that engagement, have your say, is still open to the 4th of April. Is that correct? Not
correct. So it's got another weekend.
Correct.
And
so still there to go. And I mean, if anyone on here hasn't done that and has got a strong opinion, please do that. But as Peter says, once that's been reviewed and recommendations made up to council through staff and elected members, then obviously a decision will be made. So as to what type of process, I mean,
Mr. Chairman, part of the problem of have your say is, and this is where there was no scope, is that it's phrased in terms of what surface do you want rather than have your say about the whole project.
Well, I'm sure
what Peter's communicating here, no, just let me, what Peter's communicating here and is that in fact a consultation process for the whole project. And my question, once again, I'm very naive here. My question would be, does that mean that it then has to be a rewriting of, if there is a general rejection of no cycleways, does the reserve management plan, would that stop the project, and would it then lead to a rewriting of the reserve management plan? I mean, I just want to know, I'm a bit flawed that we're actually going back into consultation of something that's approved.
But John, I mean, like anything, I mean, the reserve management plan is a plan, isn't it, Peter? And I mean, it's if there has to be amendments or adjustments made to it, and if there's any of a certain level, then obviously that will have to go through Peter's department and be voted on by council members to change. If I'm incorrect, please correct me, John. I mean, Peter, but I think what the option is, you can have your say. I mean, there's no reason why you cannot also submit a letter or further information to council directly or to Peter's office directly. I mean, have your say is one avenue. It's not the be all and end all, but again, they've obviously, this process has been going on a long time. And there's obviously renewed interest now, and they're going to assess the information that comes in. I think that's about where you've got to sit with until the 4th of April, and they've got all that, and they come back with a summary of it, and it's presented to council. And I mean, there's no reason why the people concerned cannot be there at that time of presentation or get the information or talk to the councillors or community board members to go from there. And as long as it's, I think as long everyone will be happy, as long as it's an open process, that we can get it resolved in the way that will benefit the majority of the community, hopefully. Anyone want to add anything to that long statement?
And if I could just quickly clarify a couple of things here. The reserve management plan wouldn't be specifically reviewed just because of a potential change. It's in a cycle of reviews, and the whole plan's reviewed at the point in time. And I think it's a wee way off because it was last reviewed in 2018, so it'll be about 2027. It'll next be reviewed. We're currently doing Te Puke Makatu. And with regards to have your say, I would encourage people to put submissions into the have your say. There's a comments field in that have your say process. And because that all goes into an analytical software that adds up all for this or for that type of thing, and it's a lot better for us to capture that there instead of individual phone calls to council officers or emails and stuff, because it just means we've got to round all that stuff up, and we want to make sure we capture all feedback. So that have your say tool is the best tool to do that for us.
Okay, is there any other further questions from members or councillors on the subject? I think we've covered it pretty thoroughly. Members of the public, look, if you want to contact any of us to talk further about it, please go ahead. Our contact details are all there, and we're very open to talking about it further. So, thank you. Sorry.
Just one last thing. With the reserves management plan, it seems to me that if it only says develop a walkway / cycleway for this section, then it really comes down to what the definition is of a walkway / cycleway, and not concreting it. It could still be another form of walkway cycleway, couldn't it?
That's what
Ben, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify for Tessa, I can send you the link, which is in the minutes where the report is there. It's the March minutes of a meeting where the full report is there. But by what I'm hearing you say is you don't want concrete, but you would not be against gravel as an alternative on that walkway. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I guess we just want to be sure that all the different options of surfaces are being considered and keep it. There's large stretches of very flat, very even grass in there, and it seems to me totally silly to put do a huge amount of work to put some hard trail through there if it's not necessary. And but I guess I'm also just concerned that thinking that you're going to get constructive feedback from the public in response to this little final consultation survey, where the part that's open for comments, I think, says, what do you think of this route? Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if it doesn't seem to me like that can be classed as people in the public knowing that they should write all the different things that will then be put together, and that will create constructive public consultation from this tiny survey that is really essentially asking which colour concrete. So yeah, I'm just concerned. I think as far as the surfaces go, I think it would be great if the public could see all that information about the different choices of surfaces, what's being considered, what the options are, and then have a say. You know, it's not all about what I think and what the people that I'm representing think. It's what all of us think, and the council trying to get a good gauge on that.
Peter, just quickly, do you have, just in regards to have your say in the question that Tessa's referring to, is there, I mean, I haven't had a look at it yet, but is there any other avenues for asking other questions or improving the survey if that's what they're saying? It's a bit one side. I mean, if it's a bit just pointed at one question.
The survey is what the survey is going out there at the moment. There is a comments field in there for that feedback, and that's what I'm saying is that we'll get all out there, and we'll just have to reconsider aspects of that issues that have been raised. But we are also applying a lot of experience in the building of cycleway walkways space. We've done lots and lots of kilometres and some pretty significant investment that's had a good return on that investment. And yeah, I understand it's a divisive issue in this case, but it's like if we could go back and do another survey of different things, and then what do we do? Is it a straw poll, 10 for this and versus 15 for that? At the end of the day, this, the council's governing that land and needs to make a decision to move it forward.
One last question that has been raised in prior in the meetings, just in regards to the funding of it, is it all Western Bay funded, or is it also funded on the National Cycle Walkways part as well? Was it all just come from Western Bay funding? As was something that was raised that hasn't sort of been clarified.
Right. Our Cycleway funding is a mix of funding. There's Wakakatahi subsidy funding can apply to our cycleways. There is financial contributions from developments that apply to it. That's paid by the developers at the time they develop their properties. And also there's rates, which is what we consulted with the community on during 2021 to 31 LTP last year, and there was a real clear direction from the wider district and community to increase the investment into cycle. That's what the council was responding to.
Thanks, Peter. I'm just running out of batteries. I'm trying to plug myself in.
Yep.
Excuse me, everyone.
I've just posted the link, and if you go to page I think it's page 14 of those minutes and agenda, but page 9 to 13 cover the discussions, and page 14 thereafter covers the scope of what was in the plan, so that anyone can go to it.
Okay, well, hopefully that's cleared it up for everyone. We spent an excessive amount of time on this, so we will we'll move on and go on from the advice we've received. If there's any further concerns, look, please contact the councillors or our community board members first, and we can represent you more to council. Okay, if there's no one else left for a public forum, we'll close that. And just remind that everyone who's watching the rest of the meeting on Zoom, as long as you're on silent, that's okay. Just keep your microphones on mute. And we'll now move into the normal part of the meeting, which we usually do, Penella, but it just says straight away minutes for confirmation, so we don't need to move in.
Correct. Yeah, we never moved out. So yeah.
Okay, so we've now got the previous minutes for confirmation. If anyone has read those, are there any questions?
Yep. Now, just 9.4 under the tourism Bay of Plenty, the point was made there were no specific outcomes for the Katikati Waihi Beach area. So there were no. So that if you can just add that, otherwise I've got no comment.
What do you want to put in there? There was no specific outcomes, John.
There were no specific outcomes discussed with Tourism Bay of Plenty regarding the Katikati Waihi Beach ward.
Yeah. Put my nano glasses on.
It suits you, Ben. You're getting old.
Actually, they don't work. That's blurry. Okay, that's good. Any other questions regards the previous minutes? No. Okay. Well, I will. Can we have someone to move that they be received? Thanks, John. Seconded. Thanks, Neil. All those in favour say aye. Or raise their hands. Aye. Anyone against? No. Okay. The minutes of that community board meeting on the 2nd of February are accepted. Moving into chairperson's report. Okay, chairperson's report. I've just basically noted down points to quickly talk about, and because I've been absent for 2 weeks with COVID. Neil, could you do me a favour and just talk about the community and town centre plan updates and where we're up to, please?
Sure. So we've had several workshops since the last community board meeting around the community and town centre plans. The community plan has gone back out to consultation via Facebook and hard copies in the library, Katikati in the info centre, and to Katikati Tayo. The town centre, again, we've workshopped that, and changes are with Bothwa Miskell. Again, a little bit like Ben, last 10 days I've been out with COVID and just chasing up those changes now to go back out to the community. They will, feedback has come back from various sources for the community plan, and they will be ready for our approval at our next meeting.
Both plans, you mean, to be ready for approval and finalising? Yeah.
Yep.
So just to clarify that too, we've had feedback on the community plan, and that was inducted into the community plan as well from a number of parties. So they may be listing on here, but there was feedback received from Katikati Tayo and a number of other groups, which was gone through thoroughly and injected into the plan where it was absent. So anything else?
4 of us attended Katikati Mogi's markets and had the community plan on display there and engaged with a number of the public. Yeah,
that's good. So anyone else anyone else want to add anything to this community and town centre plan updates? No. Okay. Moore Park and Beach Road developments. we received a contact from Kaingora. Their representative here happens to be a local lady that we know. She sent us a letter about what their current situation is. I replied to them saying that we would love to meet and discuss what they have intentions to do at Moore Park. This is the development on the back end of the new oval next to the residential houses. That continuing debate's been going on about whether it's social, affordable, or pensioner housing, or a combination of all. They've come back and said they will thoroughly consult with the community when they have their plan designs and what they're going to do. So we'll hopefully let's see what comes from there, because the land has been sold to Kaingora, so obviously they'll have to go through consent for Western Bay. But I've said to them that the community has got quite a heavily invested interest into where certain types of housing go into Katikati, so hopefully they will be as open as they have insinuated in their letter. So any
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question that perhaps Rachel can answer this? Ben just said there'll be a consent process, but my understanding is that it's a permitted activity putting houses there and there won't be a consent process. Is that correct, Rachel?
Depends on the density.
Okay.
Well, surely, James, for building a house on any residential, they've still got to go through a consent.
A building consent.
Building consent, yes.
That's right,
Resource consent,
Yeah.
not.
So, yeah.
But will it be a one where there is transparency, or will it just be one done by council?
Well,
So if we assumed that a resource consent was required, it depends on, it's quite complex, it depends on the activity status. If it was a discretionary activity, which is a resource management term, then we follow the statutory steps that are set out in the Resource Management Act to determine notification. So it's a statutory pathway that we follow, John, rather than just a level of community interest that drives us toward notification. There has to be a genuine potential adverse effect in an environmental sense in order for there to be consideration around notification. And the Act and case law is what planners apply to make that assessment. But I guess at the moment we're talking, we're making a number of assumptions because it might not need a resource consent at all, definitely a building consent. But if they are complying with the performance standards that are set out in the district plan for permitted activities, then no resource consent is required.
in regards to their plans, Rachel, just a quick question, because it's a government or public organisation, then surely their operations are actually open to public interest and public inquiry?
So I think you should take heart from the fact that the contact you've had from Kylie has suggested that there will be an engagement process with the local community, however that is shaped up. But in terms of any resource consent process, whether they're a government applicant or Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the parameters of the Resource Management Act apply. So there's no more stringent standard applied to a government organisation just by virtue of that.
No, that wasn't quite what I was getting at. I mean, if they have certain plans, I mean, it's nice and hopefully they will just share them with us through that consultation.
Yes.
But if they just decline to do that, they're a public organisation where we can request the information anyway. So
that's correct. And I think it would be extraordinary if they didn't at least engage, a little bit different to consult.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, the beach road is tapped on the end of that comment. Is there anyone who wanted to ask a question or talk about the beach road developments? Because we are going into stuff which is probably going to be an infrastructure report, so you know how it cross-laps, but if there's nothing on that, we can leave it. Okay, nothing. So social housing development, again, incorporates that Moore Park and beach road developments. There's a little bit more social housing development going on beach road as far as I'm aware, but I haven't heard too much more of that next to the Taylor's house.
That's pensioner housing, isn't
it? I think so, yeah. James, do you know anything about it?
Yeah, it's council elder housing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yep. So, and there's, yeah, well, that's under under progress now. Birdwalk erosion. I haven't heard too much more about that. I thought it'd stop eroding. So is it eroding again, or is it we're still fixing up the original?
Ben, can I give you an update? In fact, the birdwalk erosion, and in fact, I'm sure that Scott and Peter will know about it. We've had some very high tides of late, and you can now start to see, well, both banks, but the one bank where the walkway is, there is now some bushes that are now starting to slip, and there are cracks. So they've had, with the rain, it got wet, and now you've had some expansion joints. So you're starting to see some slippage of the bushes about to slide in. So there needs to be rock and rip on that one bank in order to secure it all the way down to the jetty. That's going to have to happen at some point in time.
Any comment on that, Peter or Scott, quickly?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Good news. We've managed to convince the regional council to allow us to operate under the consent done for the bridge to extend the rock riprap to deal with the erosion effects that Member Clements is referring to. So that's a matter of timing and getting in there to get that work done with contract availability. But so the good thing is we can do it under as like a maintenance clause. The regional council were very happy with the standard of work done by the local contractor Fothering's in that case, and we don't need to go through another consent process, which I'm very, very pleased about.
Yes, that's good.
Worry about the pathway, Peter.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks, Peter. Well, that clears that up. Next item on there is graffiti around town, which is rapidly making a reappearance, if everyone can see, from all sorts, from pen writing to big colourful writing. I talked to the local police on Friday. They're very aware of it, and they're trying to crack down on it. Or some of it is on the outside of some buildings, which looks like would take more than all night to do. So I'm not sure whether there's an artist there or not, but there's spots of graffiti appearing everywhere, and we need to probably talk to the community patrol and see if they see anything. But usually when you get a lot of graffiti, it's usually one or two miscreants who are doing it. So hopefully we can find that, but the police are aware of it. So
Ashley, thanks very much for doing the graffiti under the bridge. That's been now painted over in white. So thank you very much for that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's NZTA. Oh, sorry, Wakakote should take credit for that. That was their asset.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Okay. Tetley Road, housing road development. So the other pavements, the Marsh Road part of this development. The shared path is going in on Tetley Road is not being funded by the developer directly, but they're being charged financial contributions. I understand that there's a footpath going down to the Marai. Is that correct, Ashley? That's what it was for?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, because there's nothing for the kids to walk up there or safe access. It's just up the road. So that was an area that was being improved, and that's also probably going to link up with the Tetley upgrade on the part of the road, so you can see the roundabout's gone in, the power pole's gone out, and obviously that road's all going to be upgraded. So that will and there's a bus stop on the corner there for the kids. So I'm assuming that's all in the planning. That will be made safe. Ash?
Yep, that's absolutely correct too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There's no questions on Tetley Road.
And now just the other one is the improvements and upgrades of Tetley going to include Wills Road? So there's a proper circular road.
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not discounting that. I could see why it would be included, but I don't believe there's anything in the short term.
Because it would be a natural extension of draining traffic from that side of town around the back through Wills and Tetley.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, John, I don't believe there's any plans for that in the short term. I'm not sure if there's any allocation for that in the long-term plan either. I'd have to check that.
Okay. All good. So the last bit on there is the CE Miller Fund request, which is in your attachments. Just Penelope, should we deal with that at the same time as we deal with the community board grant applications, or should we deal with it now before we go into the council's report?
Yes, I would deal with it now. And your chairperson's report, you may, if you,
Okay. So there's a letter of request for funds from the Katikati Cricket Club. That this is the one that I have conflict of interest in, but I can briefly talk to it. You've seen the letter. It's representative of the sporting groups that use Moore Park, and especially the new open. They're wanting to look at some beautification down there. Also, the opportunity to plant trees that are like around other parts of the park, and potentially look at putting 2 seats in as well. One to they've put the idea of putting the name of C. Miller on one of the seats as a memorial, and also putting suggested another seat there with another name of it, of a person who's served the community and done a lot of things as well, which I haven't discussed with the family yet, that name. So, but if it does go ahead, then we can move to that step. So, if everyone's seen the letter, Neil, can I hand over you to run this process, because of the conflict? I should probably stop right about now.
Do we have any questions from the letters in the application, James?
Yeah, just a quick one. Actually, hopefully Ben can answer this, but I just want to make sure that the locations of the trees and benches would take into account the proposed housing development and the sports and rec centre, including any extra access required during construction, because you don't want to plant a tree and then find that that's the route the bulldozers have to go over. And yeah, so as long as that's all taken into account.
Yeah, James, we were going to put them in the middle of the cricket pitch. So
Yeah.
no, we've got to obviously talk to. We obviously got to talk to Peter reserve staff about where they would go. They're not asking for a lot of funding. It's basically for a few trees on each corner where they hopefully can be planted and left alone for their lifespan, and not affect the rest of the park. But that's to get the funding. Then obviously we go through with reserve staff and look at the best possible places to put that sort of thing, and the type of trees, that sort of thing. So
yeah.
Do you want to add anything to that, Peter, in case I haven't clarified it properly?
I think you've outlined the process here.
Yeah. Okay.
In which case, I'm happy to move to approve that, Neil.
Okay, very good. Do I have a seconder?
I'm happy to second it.
Thank you, Alan. Those all in favour, say
Aye.
aye, raise your hand. Against? Great, carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, people. Just on that too, it leaves still more than double the amount for other beautification projects. So hopefully this will encourage a few more community applications to get in and use the funds instead of having to sit there for another 3 or 4 years. So hopefully we can get that up and running. So apart from that, I'll move that the chairperson's report is seconded. Moved. Can I have a seconder, please? Thanks, James, for this. Yep. And all those in favour say aye.
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 Carried. Okay, Katikati Community Councillors report. This week it's Mr. Denia for this month.
I'm happy to take this as read, but if anyone's got any questions, then please do ask.
Quite a few here.
Have you? Okay.
Basis of inflation, 3.98%. Is that realistic?
Sorry, can you repeat that? You just cut out there a moment.
Basis of inflation of 3.98%. Is that realistic? I know what I know what the bill report says, but that's about 2 years old.
The proposed rates increase is 3.96%.
No, the rate of inflation, but to justify the rate increase of 3.98.
No, the rate increase is proposed to be 3.96%.
Based on what rate of inflation?
I'd have to check that, but that's.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. How's that? 3.99%. Okay. Now that to me is really optimistic in today's climate of inflation. The bill report. I've been.
So are you saying you want a higher rates increase, John?
No, I'm just saying that the budget is unrealistic.
Well, that's.
I'm just saying that in fact the budget, the base of the numbers is not realistic.
So just this hold here for a second. So James, you're reporting that this is what council is currently looking at in your report, but it hasn't been voted on, it hasn't been secured, and it hasn't it's not gone anywhere yet, has it? So well,
officially it's out for consultation, but given that we're suggesting 2 basis points below what we said it was going to be, that's not a basis for asking the community.
And John, your point's taken that inflation is currently different, and yes, if it was going on current rate for the next 3 months, it
If you got
should
the
be a
rate,
lot higher. Yeah.
it's
So,
going to be a lot
have you
higher.
Have you got another question?
Yep. Maori roadways, are they different to any other other roadways?
In practice, no. The only
I never thought that I'd heard of Maori roadways. So I'm just trying to work out.
Okay, so
New Zealand roadways.
Yeah. So the issue with Maori roadways is that they're roadways like public roads, as in everyone can use them, unless the Maori court has ruled otherwise. And on that basis, it's a matter of equity. That was the expression of council, that we should put them in the mix for sealing and seal extensions and so on, just like public roads. But they are owned by whichever trust or whoever owns them.
Are they? So
they will need
ratepayers as well contributing to this as well?
I'm sorry.
Are there ratepayers contributing to this as
Yeah,
ratepayers?
they'll be viewed.
So I suppose it's to the Marae. So one must assume the ratepayers are paying.
Yeah, you're talking over me there a second. These will be treated just like public roads because they can be used just like public roads. And they are used for access to people's houses, which is oftentimes not just Maori.
I'm a little confused because so
You're not the only one.
Sorry, are the roads we're talking about just normal roads serviced by Western Bay or Katikati?
They are roads that just happen to be owned by Maori rather than owned by council, but they serve the same purpose as roads owned by council.
So do we have roads that are owned by other people but are also used by public as well? Like, so say if you owned a part of your road up there but it was used by the public, James, is that under the same?
No, it's a different category to private roads. Private roads are different again, and we do not maintain or seal those.
These roads are.
So we're talking about EWIA ownership over normal private ownership over public ownership. So there's 3 ownership levels, I suppose. Is that what you're saying?
There's 3 categories of roads in that sense, yes. And council is proposing to treat the Maori roadways in a similar way to the public roadways.
And the reason for that is because they can't be funded or can't be looked after by.
No, the reason is because the public have the right to use them as public roads.
Correct.
Okay.
Whereas if you have a private road,
public don't have the right.
Driveway, you can't. The public can't use that.
Okay.
As a right.
That's the clarification difference for everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
So there could be a private owned road by, say, a married landowner, and that's a private road, so it's treated just the same as a privately owned.
Yes.
So why then call it Maori roads? Just call it New Zealand roads.
Because it has Maori land tenure, so it's controlled by the Maori Land Court. But I think that Rachel's probably wanted to get in here because she's probably got a better explanation than I have. So, Rachel, would you like to come in there?
Well, I think, Mr. Chair, that James, you've done an exceptional job. It is a formal category of roadway under the jurisdiction of the Māori Land Court. So it's not something that we've made up. No. It is a formal category of roadway.
Okay. And do we have quite a few of them in our area in Western Bay? Or
we do, and I can point to one that's a really obvious and good example, and that's Goodall Road, which is off Whakamarama Road, which is used. It is a Māori roadway. And it services a number of general land titles. So those land titles are not in Māori ownership. So it's a very, very, very good and relevant example, and there are others.
Okay. Any further questions? No? James? Yep. Further questions on other subjects, John?
No, thanks.
Okay. If everyone's happy with the council's report, can I have a move, please? I'll move
I'll
it.
move my report, Ben.
Second, thanks, Neil. Cheers.
Yep.
All those in favour say aye.
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 Aye, and that's
Aye.
all right. Council report. Okay, community board grant application, pages 28 to 29. Has everyone had a look at that? Yeah, I missed it. Okay, so that's sure COVID makes your eyes go worse. So we still have $8,000 of funding available. As of 31st of March, it will be 6,000. The Katikati Community Toy Library has submitted an application. They do every 3 or 4 years from memory. They don't come through that often. They do provide a very good service to the community. I'm pretty sure that they are still up and running. I did hear something where they were struggling for staff at one stage. Kate, do you know anything about that? Or I can't. No. Did anyone else have any information on it? I recall someone talking about it, but maybe it was a while longer ago than I thought. But anyway, that application.
Yeah, no, they were in danger of going into recession and folding. And Sandra Good has done a lot from a number of years trying to support that. She's got adult children now, so she's giving it.
Yeah. So you can see that their application is there, and I can't even see it on the summary. It doesn't go back. I can't see any other ones that we've actually given to the toy library for quite a long time. Is there any objections to it or any questions in regards to it? Anything need to be raised? No, everyone looks quite happy, contented. Okay, well, if everyone's happy with it, I'm quite happy to move that we accept that toy library application for funding. Do I have a seconder?
Yep.
Thank you, Kate.
Yep.
Jump there like lightning. Yep. And all in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, well, we'll move that. That is passed and accepted. Okay. I keep on telling people to apply, but they just get very slow at doing it. So
Yeah, just through you. There's been one advertisement out to get grants, and there'll be another one before your next meeting as well. So hopefully might draw some more people.
there's no restriction on the college apply. I know they've got a sports group up there. They need to get their turf renewed that got ripped up in the storm. It's been sitting there for 6 months, and they've raised, I think, 90% of the 100,000 they need. They just need small amounts to fill it up. So there's no restriction on the college or type organisations applying, is there, for now?
I actually am not sure about schools. I'd have to follow that one up.
Okay. Well, if you find out, I don't want them to waste their time doing that, because they might be better to apply as a sports club or a group that use it. So
Ben, can I suggest, if you're in contact with them, the facilities and the community fund is about to open, so they might want to apply through that.
Okay, yeah. All good.
Ben, looking at the eligibility criteria in the document, it looks like they could apply.
Yes.
It doesn't.
Yeah. But if the bigger community matching fund's probably better to apply for that one. Because
I'll follow it up.
Not the matching fund, the facilities and the community fund.
Okay. Right. So that one is done. Then we're up to infrastructure and services report. Has everyone read that? Is there any questions? That's page 30. Is there any questions we'd like to ask? We've got Ashley there and many others.
Yeah. Actually, just a quick one. We talked about the town centre budget of $470,000. You've got the one budget in, but not the other budget. So I'm just querying because we talked about a joint funding allowance of around about 60,000. So I'm just trying to find out what's the other budget, because that's not mentioned in your report.
Sorry, you mean the town centre budget?
That's right, yeah, it's $470,000, but it's not mentioned in your report as a way of funding the pathways, the pavements.
Only shows.
Yep, no, sorry if I've overseen that. yeah, when I spoke to Gary Ellis, he was comfortable with using the town centre plan money for the village upgrade. I can add that in.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Because otherwise
We just make
we're paying it off for the next 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We just
and
make
some
note of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Understood. Actually, the one thing I should say is just going back to the Wills Road, Tetley Road, that intersection is actually subject for a redesign in the medium term. So yeah, apologies, that slipped my mind.
Okay, cool. No other anything's on there? Okay.
Ben, I don't know if you saw the email I circulated, and I just wanted to wanted to suggest that we add another item to the priority 1 list, and that is the wider shared path between Mulligan Street and Urutara Bridge. Ashley's up to speed on that, or we had a walk over it with him, and at this stage it's just asking the question of NZTA whether it's a possibility at all, and then we can consider it further. But I would like to add that one because it's something that the community and the community board have wanted for some time.
Yep. Okay.
Can I just add that? So that stretch is state highway, so it's governed, the actual road is governed by Waka Kotahi, and council maintain from the curbs to the boundaries. So if we're doing a curb realignment, which is essentially what would be required, there'd be a significant, probably not overly significant actually, but a bit of a cooperative with Waka Kotahi in the first instance.
I think no one's under any illusion we were paying a big chunk of that.
Yep, I'd say so. Yeah, absolutely. I don't really believe Waka Kotahi would have much interest in it, but I don't think they'd object either.
Can we get
The
a
main
possible meeting
concern-
with them on site with them, Ashley? Because I mean,
Yeah,
absolutely. If we walk along there two abreast up there and we slightly push, they'll go very close to the road and they might realise how much of a health and safety hazard it is. Because it's right beside the road, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
There must be rules governing a footpath that close to a main state access highway, because it's basically a foot from the side of the road, and there's not much of a, I mean, there's not much of a division between that and the actual road, so it's right beside it. It's probably one of the closest pathways in Katikati next to the highway. You look at all the other ones, we're all set back. So
terrible.
Yeah, so maybe we could arrange a meeting with them, and just so we can actually have a discussion on site would be really good. So
yeah, I've got a few contacts over at Waka Kotahi, and I can, if people are happy to, I can arrange that.
Yeah.
I guess I don't want to put words in Waka Kotahi's mouth, of course, but I guess their primary interest would be just the number of heavy vehicles that roll through. That's their primary objective, would to make sure, I guess, the other side of the coin of pedestrian movement would be the heavy vehicle movement.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, you got the trucks right beside. Anyway, we can discuss it. So,
make a quick comment. This morning there were 20 trucks between Waihi and Katikati at 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay? So it's busy. And there were sort of 20 trucks from Pairoa to the gorge. So it really is a massive amount of truck movement. Could we look at traffic lights as well for Highfield? Because that intersection is a shocker for people coming out of Highfield, but also down.
Well, that's something I suppose if we get Waka Kotahi out there, actually, we can have a discussion. Yeah. So yeah,
that whole traffic movement there is quite dangerous.
Yeah, John, just to put you in the picture, that was, I was in the reference group that discussed options like that a few years ago, and Waka Kotahi were all on board, and then they just said no money. So that has basically stalled.
But it can be brought up again, at least, James, because it's been discussed before, so they might find some more money. Anyway, okay. Anything else in the infrastructure report? It's getting late.
Yeah.
Okay, move that's passed. Seconded, please.
Well, can we just add that item to the priority 1 list? If that,
sure.
Penelli, comfortable with that. That's good.
I'll adjust the report for the next meeting.
Yeah, Sorry.
Sorry, I've missed all my screens went black and I couldn't see or hear anything for a bit there. So I missed the move under the recommendation. So let me just pull up.
Penilla, so
Yes.
recommendation 2, there should be an extra item in there, which is Mulgan Street to Uratara Bridge shared path.
Okay.
Can I just add that probably the comment should be investigation at this stage?
Yep.
Okay.
There'll be quite a bit of work again to work with Wakakote to achieve that.
In fact, actually, the whole that item 2 says approve the investigation of options. So I guess that's covered anyway.
Great.
Yeah.
Yep. Fair play.
Probably more pertinent place for safety barriers than anywhere else.
Yep.
I'm not being cynical. Okay. Right. Anything else on that? No. Okay. Let's move. I'll move it. Seconded. Thanks, Neil. Was it? Yeah. So wait. We're in favor. Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Right. Where are we up to? The financial report. Any questions on the financial report? No.
Sorry, Ben, we've jumped on the Western solid waste because we're reporting in detail about what's happened with now sort of, it's like the COVID statistics. We all get COVID statistics, but what happened before this, because the solid waste went somewhere before then, and including the waste dump. So why are we getting suddenly this focus on waste statistics when we've got no references to whether this is an improvement or a deterioration from previous waste collection processes?
Because they didn't do waste collection processes.
You know.
So can anyone answer John's question in regards to them?
I would suggest it's to do with being able to compare like with like. If you've got half a dozen contractors taking waste and recycling here, there, and everywhere, you can't really compare. You won't have the data to compare that with one contract that we have now.
Well, then why, in fact, the numbers are really quite irrelevant.
Well, they track the performance since the curbside collection started, and then over the next few years, we'll know where things have gone.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm happy with that. It's just reporting what they're doing, I suppose. It's accurate. So, yeah. So that's already been passed and moved anyway. So financial report, is there any questions on that? Or can we take the report as read? No, okay, we'll move that the financial report is accepted. Seconded, please. Okay, thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, standing minutes, community board meetings. Has everyone had a look at those? Any questions? Right, so I'll pass it there. Move.
Just can we go back, and the Peter Watson is here, still there. The grass cutting report hasn't been tabled in the infrastructure report. I noticed that it was cut after some protest, but
we've already moved to the second, unfortunately, John.
The response to that is it comes to the next meeting.
Yeah.
We're short-staffed at the moment, so workload's very big.
Yeah. I have to. I mean, and I'm not defending anyone, but I have noticed that that the even downers have been affected by COVID, when they can actually get.
No, I agree. No.
The mowing's been different days and stuff. But it's
Plymouth Point has not been affected by it. So that's the point. That's why I was actually having a cross-reference, and it's the second time I've been to Plumbers and then compared it to Katikati.
Have the Plumbers Point residents put in, John?
Reserve has been cut, and no grass remains.
Okay. Right. Let's.
Sorry, I think they're different contracts though. One is reserves contracts. Is that correct, Peter? And one would be road mowing contracts.
I can address it now. So the Huharoa Park is up for green flag assessment, and that's a assessment about how the park is inspired international assessment process, the green flag, and it has been mowing quite nice, looking for that, and it deals with cool season grasses, and there's a different, it's mown by the Pegasus mower, whereas the areas along the foreshore are not mown by the Pegasus mower. So you'll find areas like the sports grounds are mown by the same regime, by the big mower area, and they have a different round mowing regime to the smaller ones up front and the brush cutter guys. So it's your cooler season grasses compared to Kaikui, which is still actively grown. It's been very warm today, and John, I think I've said this before, that we don't always get it right, and that area along there is getting a focus on it at the moment. And as Ben was saying, COVID, I've been following up on almost a daily basis with the contractor, and I had 3 mowing staff off today with COVID, affected by COVID. So it's very difficult times, and we won't be able to deliver the services as we'd like to at this point in time.
Thanks, Peter, for that.
Thanks, Peter.
I haven't billed Peter for the extra mowing I've done either, so I've done it through such a lovely person at COVID's like.
You got the special grass too.
Okay, so if everyone's happy with that, the community standing minutes and community board meetings, if we can move there. Seconded, I'll move them. Seconded, please. James, thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
And if there's no further business, anyone thing of excitement that want to bring up? Neil, you've got your hand raised. No, you've got the frozen pitch. No.
Ben, can we
Yes.
just ask about the Talisman Drive, what our position is? Because there's a meeting tomorrow, and I think we should be thinking about if we're going to spend, I think the price for that was about $3.5 million. Would it be better to buy a building inside for the market square rather than, in fact, leave that to be commercial unless there's a definite plan? I don't know what the other members of the community board think.
Well, actually, Rachel, could you answer this? Is it council's intention of purchasing it is for what purpose? Is it for is council put an offer on it, as far as I was aware? Or what's the council's intention to purchasing that parcel of land?
Mr. Chair, I could be talking a little bit out of turn because I'm not the author of that report, but as I understand it from the very brief discussion that I've had with Gary, the intention behind the discussion tomorrow at Performance and Monitoring Committee is that the 2014 Town Centre Plan, bearing in mind that the community plan and town centre plan for Katikati hasn't yet been formally adopted, signalled the potential for that area to be used for parking. But certainly that is the nature of the debate, I suspect, that needs to happen tomorrow with our councillors.
Councillors, what's your current views on it, your feelings, James? Just so.
Yeah, this is a bit tricky because it is in the confidential section of the meeting tomorrow. What I will say though is that I'll be taking the community board's views, because we did discuss this briefly at our last workshop, to take your views and express them, and ask a similar question to what Member Clements is actually asking: is what's the purpose? What's the plan on this one? So I'll be definitely asking that question.
Yeah. My only comment on it is that there are probably a number of projects in Katikati that would probably be a little bit more beneficial than Tarsio parking to the community if we were if council was actually looking at directing their funds in those areas, or if this is specifically just for buying assets or land for future proofing, then yes. But again, I haven't seen anything to say that there is a shortage of parking in Katikati, because that's always seems to be an up around. So
I hear you, Ben.
My view of Jet. So yeah, Neil.
Yeah, this is part of our workshop discussion over the last 4 to 5 weeks, and agreed, Ben, that the issue of parking hasn't come up, and we've identified, and you said that priority list, other areas of the town centre that could potentially add to the parking lot. So and Kotahi Lane's been discussed as well. So I'm confident that the community board doesn't see that as a prime parking area.
Kate, if you need to add to that.
Mr. Chairman, if the council wishes to have,
I was just going. I said Kate first, then I'll go to you. Sorry, Kate. You have anything to say? Sorry, on that.
I would probably see it as a just strategic purchase, like literally a land banking project if council was going to get hold of it. But it would be a good place to own in the centre of town for use in future for something that will benefit all Katikati. So yeah,
Okay.
probably not parking. But
John?
Mr. Chairman, it would be good if, in fact, the councillor wishes to build the offices, 50% of the offices here and 50% in Te Puke. That would be a good strategic move.
Thanks, John. I should be putting it down the other building down by Moore Park. James, you got any more further comments? No. Alan, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, basically, well,
Yeah.
In fairness, James and I have also been chewing the fat on this, and I'm sitting in the same spot with James there. We have to see what comes forward as to the purposes, and I think that's what will be revealed to us tomorrow.
Okay.
But
sorry.
so I'm aware very much from our discussions that it is questioned by the community board.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, everyone.
I'm sorry, Ben, can I just mention that you all should have received the invite that the community board's been invited to the workshop tomorrow. Did you all see that?
Yep.
Oh, was that Janisha? Sorry, I was looking to
Yeah,
see.
sorry, it's me.
Sorry, Janisha, I'm looking around to see who's talking. And
That's all good. Sorry, I don't have my picture on. Yes, that should all be in your calendars for tomorrow for the workshop section. That's where it's going to be discussed.
And what time was that again?
Sorry, I'll just double check.
11:30.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll be somewhere up with the cow, but if you guys, someone would definitely wants to get in there and represent the community board, that would be great. Okay.
My house is going for auction at that time. Sorry.
You've got COVID. How can you have an auction on your house?
It's out on parks now.
Neil, if you wanted to, that workshop will be recorded, so I can send you the section where they're discussing that if you did want to view it afterwards.
Yes, that'd be great. Thanks, Janisha.
Cool. Thanks.
Great. All good. Well, if there's no further questions. Penelli, you had one thing. I saw you point for a second there, but you changed your mind. No? Sure? No?
No, I was just pointing to Janisha's hand up when you were asking, but that's fine.
I couldn't see a hand up. She had no picture. How could you see it?
Oh, it just popped up on the side of my screen.
Okay, brilliant. Cool. Okay, that's answered the most important question of the night. Then they will declare the meeting closed at, I'm looking for a time now. And there's nothing on the screen.
9:36.
8:36.
8:36.
Sorry.
Still, it's it's not daylight savings ended yet. So not 8:36.